Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Building a Nation, the analysis days at the end of Season 2 now. So we're going to do what we've done in the first season, of course. Excuse my voice, it's very early in the morning. I've got my coffee here. And we're just going to chill, have a look through some stats. You know the drill by now. So we don't really need to go over what's gone on in the actual league, because you obviously already know that. So we're going to go and have a look at the squad and whatnot, and just see who's improving, because there's some players that I feel like have really stepped up this year, like massively. And that really does please me. The likes of Zavjikrai and Yaksik as well, one of the youngsters I brought in, and Jan Peltz as well, has really taken it upon himself to be an absolute hero this year. He's done this year what I felt like he wasn't doing last year. He's really added some consistency to his game, but we'll come on to that more in a minute. First, let's take a little look at the squad. Right, sorry about that. I was just letting a very, very loud and inconvenient plane fly over. It's probably had the windows open, but it's too hot and it's too nice of a day to not have the windows open. So, starting off on Janusz Zaborowski, our 18-year-old Pole. Next year, he will count as one of our under-21 options, which is great, and I feel like he's actually not bad. Like, I know he's 5th in the pecking order, but it's a really, really small gap between the likes of him and Kvantiliani, and obviously Malek's pulling out in front of that, which is nice. The thing I just noticed about him, which I didn't see before, is he's got 16 acceleration and 12 pace. This guy's he's not exactly a pace merchant, but he has a really nice turn of pace, and he's not exactly not agile either. Good natural fitness, crossing and dribbling are okay, but improving. Great first touch. His passing and vision are both at 10s, which is kind of the bare minimum of what I really want. I like him. He's only made one start for us, but he's got 2 goals for us in the league, averaging some decent number of dribbles per game as well. I'm a huge fan of this lad, and I think there's a long, bright future for him. And very nicely, he is capable of playing in the middle as well, but that 5 finishing probably lets him down a little bit, but at least he has some versatility. I'm not going to spend too long on every single player. Next up, Sebastian Zavjikrai. I mean, what can I say about this lad? I am in love. He has really, this year, just come out and staked a claim to being our first choice central midfielder, and has done a fantastic job for us, really. 4-star current ability now at 21 years old. The potential's still there. He's still got, apparently, inconsistency issues, but to me, I think he's been bloody unreal this year. 14 passing, 13 vision, and I think that's been his main selling point. Like, he hasn't got amazing finishing, but that being said, he has contributed 7 league goals this year, playing essentially behind 4 other players, so it's not like he's going to be relied on much to create stuff for us. 3 assists as well. I don't know how that compares to last year. I wish there was a way that you could compare. Well, I suppose we can't we? We can go to the history page and have a little look at that. So yeah, well, there you go. So 7 goals this year and 3 assists. Last year, 1 goal, and he did get more assists, but no man of the match awards. He's definitely had an absolutely brilliant year for us this season. Clearly been a much better player, particularly in the goal scoring department too. That's been an area where I think he's really stepped it up, and huge props to him for that. So let's move on a little bit. We'll come back to these guys later. Rafa Zaborowski, 28 years old, still had an alright season for us, 21 league appearances for us this year, no goals or anything like that. Still a 7.1 isn't too bad for him really, but we do have other options there, and I'm hoping someone stakes a claim along with old Konrad Kasalek, because he's been the one that's really stood out to me as being an absolute rock for us. Considering I bought him as a right back initially, his movement into the centre, I think, has changed the game for him. Kościeniewski's not played so much this year, so we really have had to move some stuff around, probably because of Zubek as well. That's probably not helped. Jakub Zmuda, he is improving, in all fairness to him. 23 years old, 6 foot tall. He's barely had any game time for us this season. He's mostly been played as a backup behind the likes of Maslanka, and obviously since Kokotska came through as well, yeah, it's kind of a case of who's going to be fighting for that position next year. We're going to have some stats to compare on that one, though, so we'll look forward to that. Daniel Barbas hasn't really played all that much. He does still have, though, 2 years on his contract, so he'll be here for a little while. He got 2 goals, 1 assist. He played in the Cup as well a little bit, too. He's not been bad, but you can see that that 83% pass completion is vastly worse than the likes of Zavjikrai. Then again, he's mostly come off the bench and often played higher up the pitch. Obviously, Belaruski. And apparently his name means White Russian or Belarusian, which might also mean White Russian. I don't know. So yeah, cool for him. Hasn't actually played any first team games, though, so bad perhaps that one. Mikhail Zubek, a guy that I bought in mainly to be a backup, but he's had an all-right season, in all honesty. A 7.05 there, 2 man of the match awards, which is fair enough, and 2 goals for us this season. So I'm fairly happy with his output this year, considering he was sort of thrown into the fire due to his age, really. Mateusz Gora, a player who I didn't really expect to get much from, but he's getting better and better and better. And in all honesty, from that position, he looks like he might be our starting attacking midfielder next year. Depending on what position, I'm not sure yet, either as a shadow striker or as the attacking midfield role, because that great grip, dribbling, finishing, first touch, solid-ish passing, decent vision. Like, he started 12 times for us in the league, to be fair, but he does have 4 goals, all scored towards the end of the season, while Piachara was injured. So I will still be looking to sign players in there, but I feel like Mateusz Gora could well be a player that really moves up in my estimation next year. And he's looked good when he's taken his chances properly. Has he really made 12 starts? That's quite a lot, isn't it? Artur Hebda, midfield player. You know, he didn't really get much of a chance for us so far this season. 6 substitute appearances, that's all. We did have a 90% pass completion, though, so at least he's ticking things over in that area, which is nice to see. Karol Jaksik, a player I brought in, has kind of surprised me, to be honest. I brought him in to be a sort of backup right-back kind of position, and he's really taken over. 29 league appearances, 4 assists from right-back as well. Really solid, just a really solid output from the lad. I'm actually really pleased with his development, and 20 years old, which helps. Kamil Gaziak, of course, was our starting player last year for that role, and he's just completely fallen down the pecking order this year and has barely played. 2 starts and 5 off-the-bench appearances. Not really contributed a great deal more than that, really. He's just sort of here at the moment. But we've got players on decent length contracts. They're not on huge money, though, which is the key thing for me. Next up, though, Konrad Kastelik. This guy has had one hell of a season from centre-back. Like, really has just stuck a claim. Potential to be a decent Ekstraklasa central defender in the future, so he's got top-flight potential. He only has 1 more year left on his contract, so I'm going to try and get him on a new contract in the summer, because I think he is absolutely integral to us going forward. Still only 22. He was man of the match 3 times this season from centre-back. That to me is really something. 80% pass completion as well. 97% tackles won. 5 goals in the league this year and an assist. Konrad Kastelik, take a bow. That is a hell of an output for a central defender to have 5 goals. Marcin Kluska. 4 starts, 7 substitute appearances. This is the thing. He's got 3 goals this year and an assist, but that injury, he is in the rehabilitation phase and he's going to be out for between 5 weeks and 2 months. Wow, that's really sped up. Interesting. I know he'll probably be in that phase for a long time, but maybe there's a hope, but you could see how much that's harmed his current and potential ability. It's just completely decimated him. Look at the state of this compared to Peltzy. Sebastian Cabrera hasn't played as much because of Colbon this year. Our defensive midfielder has really not played that well in this team. That's the one position that I'm still not sure if we've got the right role. And I do wonder if maybe playing a ball-winning midfielder there instead, particularly as we're such a good team for that kind of football. I do wonder if having a slightly more versatile player in that role rather than just a straight up bog standard defensive midfielder might actually do a bit better. What does this require? Actually, the defensive midfielder seems to be more... Tell me, if you could let me know in the comments what position you think would go well for our passing style as a defensive midfielder. Since we already have a deep line playmaker, we don't want another one of those. What role do you think would suit the system we play to try and bring them into the game a little bit more? Because that's the one role that seems to always have poor average ratings. Simon Koscieniewski just hasn't had the year that he wanted. 6 starts, not really been all that fantastic when he did start. I think he made a mistake into a goal. He just seems to have too much of a mistake in him, and I think, weirdly, he has 10 concentration too, so I don't really know where that's come from. Yeah, a lot of ones about old about old Simon, so there is that too. Moving on, Tomasz Kokoszka, the youngster. He's 18 years old. He came through the youth academy, what I must assume was last season, and he's already sort of tying to be potentially our best rated left back in the team at 18. Which just shows you the potential that these guys have got. And I think some of the young players that really have got this high potential and decent ability to achieve that potential really are just coming into their own. He's got really solid physicals. He's 5'11" already. Well, he was always that. Decent enough crossing. He's got 8 passing and 10 vision, which isn't too bad. He's got 83% pass completion as well, which is really quite nice. So moving on again. I don't want to dwell too much on that stuff because we'll do it on the proper comparison. Thomas Colbon, again, you can see what I mean. 30 appearances this year. Great. 90% pass completion is fantastic. But his just average rating just isn't as good as I would like. And he has had 3 yellows and a red. So, not ideal. Bartosz Kowalczyk, he'll probably leave soon. In fact, yeah, because he's just not getting game time. He's constantly complaining about it. And I don't think he's ever going to get in the squad, unfortunately. Nico Kvantiliani didn't play as much as I was expecting him to be honest. 2 goals and 4 assists, so that's not bad really when you consider he only started 7 matches for us, and he's averaged a 7.2, so I'm still fairly pleased with his output, and he is still only 22 years old. Thank God he never got that call up for Georgia, because his wages would have jumped to, I think, $350 if he'd done that. And that, I mean, not that it matters that much, but it still would have been a bit of a problem for us. I think maybe his height has caused us some problems. I'm not sure. We'll start to see how he compares to the others. Artur Luchkiewicz. brought in as a centre-back backup, still has solid potential. He's 23 years old, though, now. Only started 2 matches for us. Again, we'll see how he compares to the other guys. That natural fitness, though, is quite nice. Mateusz Malik, sort of the first choice on that right-hand side. 5 goals, but 11 assists this year. That is a sensationally good output from him this year. Only 5'8", so he's not exactly that much taller than old Kvantiliani, but he does have some nice PPMs that runs with ball down right and knocks the ball past the opponent. Let's just see how he's compared to last year. Look at the difference. Last year, in 24 appearances, he got 1 goal and 3 assists. This year, 5 goals and 11 assists in less appearances. Malik has definitely had a better season. Now, obviously, there's other reasons for that potentially, but remember, we're playing at a higher level. Piotr Maslanka, here we go, my man. 1 goal, 3 assists this year, but he does appear to be on the decline. He's 29 years old now, and I think we need to probably look at bringing in some young blood. He's not going to get any better, whereas I feel like Kokoschka over the following season is just going to completely overtake Maslanka, and I think I'm already thinking about Kokoschka as being our starting left-back next year. I know you guys love Maslanka, old buttermilk man, but I feel like he might be on his way out. Krzysztof Dabrowski barely played. In fact, he hasn't played a single first-team game for us this year. He just didn't quite fit in most of the time, which is a weird one for us. Jan Peltz, one of the great white hopes, still only 20 years old. Look at 14 crossing and 15 dribbling. This guy is unreal. Really, really pleased to have him in the team. No green stats yet, but he is really, really coming on. I constantly get news articles saying how glad they are that he's improving. And he is really the only decent player we've got on that left-hand side at the moment, so we really do need to look into that. We already know that. 7.31 this season. I mean, 11 assists and 8 goals. He's probably got the biggest attacking output of any player in this team, which is saying so. Probably even higher than Christian Pichara, in all honesty, because I don't think he's got that many assists. He's got a few goals, though. Here is Pichara, actually. So, yeah, 14 goals and 2 assists. So, our best attacking player overall is Jan Peltz. Pichara, he's going to be out for 2 to 5 months still. And I just kind of feel like he might well have played his final game for us. But we will see. Because, I don't know, I feel like Gora might be a better option next year, potentially signing someone new. It's a shame because Pichara was on for one hell of a year. Like, he was having a really, really good season, particularly with the penalties. Scored, what was that, 5 out of 6? Feels like it was more than that, to be honest. Priborovsky, he's a guy who was decent, but he's just been pushed down the pecking order. He's got 2 appearances off the bench this year. Did all right in the car. Is that the Cup? I can never bloody remember. I think it's the Cup. Also, the fact that we weren't joined into the Polish Cup, that still bugs me, and I think that has to... Because look, if you look at the competitions thing here, nothing. I assume next season we will get drawn into it. And I know there have been a couple of little bugs with this database, and it does kind of suck, but I've just kind of had to make the best of it. Most of the things like that, I feel like we can probably just accept that, it's not harming the save too much, but I would like to think that that won't happen next year, hopefully. Please don't happen next year. Wojciech Słomka didn't really play for us much this year, but when he did, he got a couple of assists, and he's only on loan, so that's fine. And Mateusz Tobiasz, of course, our wonderful goalkeeper, 29 appearances in the league, only conceded 19 goals when he was in the team, 15 clean sheets, so basically every other game he kept a clean sheet. You can't really ask for much more. He's 6'6", I've only just noticed that. But we do have some interesting players now. I wonder how Nipek actually got on. I don't know if we're actually going to be able to see him. And of course, Bartosz Wiśniewski, whose contract is now extended for a further year, and he'll be 35 when he finishes up with us. He's still been bloody good, though, hasn't he? 9 goals, 3 assists this year. It's not quite the levels he was putting up last year, it's fair to say. But still, 3 Man of the Match awards, too. Like, his numbers have definitely dropped off. 14 goals and 3 assists last year. This year, only 9 goals and 3 assists. But, the guy's 34. What do you want from him? He's playing a very high-intensity role. Mateusz Rezien, yeah, he's a permanent signing, isn't he? Yeah, he's just not really lived up to much, but, he's back up his bodies, and of course we're back to Janusz Zaborowski. So yeah, now let's quickly go over and check into the league, have a look through that, and then we'll get into the real meat and bones of this, the stats. Okay, so to the surprise of exactly no one, we're top of the possession stats, 58. I really want to have a season. I'm hoping it'll happen later down the line once we're sort of dominating the top flight. I know I always talk about it like when we will, because I know for a fact that we will. Like, it's just how these saves go. It's not that difficult to dominate these leagues if you find the right tactic, you can pretty much do it within about 10 years. Sometimes sooner, it just depends. With Serbia, obviously, it was easier because we didn't have any leagues to go. We still got to get up the leagues first. But I want to have a season where we keep like 65% possession on average. I want to get to the point where we're basically playing different teams in the league and in Europe because we have so many awesome young talents. And that's the best part about FM. It's so bloody fun. So, penalty taken. We had 9 penalties this season. We scored 8 of them. That ain't bad, really. And at one point, it was looking like we'd have even more than that, to be perfectly honest. Headers won. Big Shaq's Skra did quite well. We didn't win a lot of headers, but I guess we probably didn't need to. Hopefully, we got a decent ratio. Ooh, okay. Interesting. I guess... yeah, this is why I would like to make sure that we have better defenders to try and win some of those headers. Kastelik seems to be doing all right, but I want him to have a really, really solid partner. Second on yellow cards, hello, that's me. We're not doing great there, and we have had 4 reds this year, which is a bit dodgy. That's not ideal, guys. You could probably do with calming it down a little bit as it goes. The form, I never pay any attention to this because it doesn't. I wish it would show you the longest runs over the entire season rather than the current runs, because otherwise it's just a bit pointless. I want to see the overall stats rather than the current ones. Otherwise, yeah, it's a bit pointless. So goals scored. I mean, we scored 14 more goals than anyone else. Only 68 goals though. That's literally dead on 2 goals a game, which isn't too bad. But it shows that we're not exactly bashing teams like we often have. Well, like I've seen in the past. You know, if that was closer to sort of 70 or 80, but then there's less games. I don't know. Still, cross completion, mid-table are only 15%. So we've actually dropped off on that one, it would seem a little bit. Crosses completed, though, we do have the most. So there is that. 8 goals from corners. That's more like it. We're actually getting a few more set-piece goals. And I think that's almost exclusively down to Konrad Kastelik, because I think he's got 5 goals from corners this season. I think all of his goals have come from corners. The guy is just like a salmon, but he's like a 6'4" salmon that would bite your head off. Goals from direct free kicks, none. Not a single direct free kick. Maslanka hasn't been the player he was last year. He did get a goal, but it was from open play, which is a bit weird. Goals from indirect free kicks. Wow, look at that, 10, and we only got 1. That's one area of our game where we really are lacking is free kicks. To have only scored 1 goal from both direct and indirect free kicks this season is really, really bad, isn't it? Pass completion overall, obviously the highest at 82%. We just control the possession. That's fine. 14,000, nearly 15,000 passes this year. We're a pass machine. Chances created, of course, I mean, that's not bad, actually. But I guess sometimes we don't always have to create as many chances to score goals. Shots on target, 49%, much more like it. 263 shots on target as well, and our conversion ratio is the highest in the league. Lovely old job. Fouls against, we do not win a lot of fouls, do we? Jesus. Dribbles per game, though, at 8. That's more like it. I want to see who's responsible for that. Defense, best defense in the league. 23 goals conceded. That being said, Grief really did come close to catching us in the end, if you like. And I think it's because we just had a few poorer performances where we were leaking a few too many goals, possibly after Nipek came into the team. I feel like he's probably not quite lived up to it, unfortunately. Conceded from corners. We only conceded 1 goal from corners this year. That's more like it. And I think that goal was against Radomiak earlier this season, I think, if I can remember correctly. I think they scored an equaliser with a goal. No, they scored the first goal with a goal from a corner, then they got that stupid bit of goalkeeping. Goals conceded from direct free kicks, just the 1. Indirect, only 4. It's not that bad. Admittedly, 2 of them were in 1 game and it ended our unbeaten run, but it's not as bad as it could have been. 17 clean sheets overall was the most, but unfortunately, Tobias didn't have the best clean sheet record in the league because the Griff goalkeeper was in goal for all 16 of theirs, whereas Tobias was only in goal for 15 of ours. It's frustrated, considering how good we've been to not win that. But we did at least keep clean sheets in half of our games, which is mental. Fouls made were a bit foully, it's fair to say. Tackles won, we don't win a lot of tackles, but hopefully, yeah, we are right up there with 90% tackles won. Penalties conceded, just the 1. Not too bad at all. I think that was against Rook, wasn't it? Average attendance is Rook up at the top. We're still averaging mid attendances, but yeah, we got big ground, so that's a bit of a problem. I wonder what our highest attendance was. 2,200. Wow, Radomiak got 8,500. That looks like a sellout as well. Lowest attendance? 800. Oh dear, guys, come on. Net transfer spend. So we've actually spent £14,000, which isn't too bad when you look at things. Grief also spent 490. Odder Opera made nearly £300,000, but I presume that's because as they got relegated, yeah, money was spent. Salary per annum. That's not bad. We were 10th in the salary charts and we were promoted. Grief, in fact, were lower than us in salary. So the 2 clubs that went up were both 10th and 11th in salary. Radomiak was spending £500,000 on salary. That's actually quite a lot. I can understand now why Photo Hygienia GAC went down, it's fair to say. Right, let's have a look at player stats. Okay, so nobody on the yellow cards. That is a turn up for the books, it's fair to say. What filters have we got here? Oh, I didn't know you could do that. That's kind of interesting. I'll bear that in mind in future. Red cards. Kokoschka, of course, does have a red card. Bit unfortunate, really. But, I mean, I say unfortunate. He was a bit of a ninny. I just noticed that Callum Rojka is an Englishman. That's pretty cool. And he's been sent off twice. A little bit less cool on that one. Player of the match awards. Zavchuk up there with 6. He really is the midfield maestro that we've always wanted. Distance covered per 90 minutes. I feel like our fullbacks should be available on this one. But they're actually not, interestingly. Not covering as much ground. We should dominate this. Look at this. Kastelik out in front. Malek, Pelt, Zavchuk in 5th. Literally, we have 4 of the top 5 players. And further down, Yaksik in 10th, Maslanka 13th, Zebarovsky in 16th, and Pichara down there in 19th. He had a few off games when he was either on it or really, really off it. That was sort of his jam. Kaslik obviously up there. That's not a huge surprise. We don't win top scorer in the league, unfortunately, as a result of Novak getting in there at the last minute for Skra. But then, Pichara only managed to play 24 games, so he certainly had a much better minutes to goal ratio. Wisniewski in there as well, as is Jan Peltz. What about this one? Wow. That guy that plays for Grif, that scored against us in both games, actually has the best one. He's got 10 goals and only 15 starts, and 2 of those were against us. So Pichara up there as well on that one. Shots. He has had a lot of shots. It's not surprising that a lot of them went in fairness. Shots on target, 58. That's a lot of shots on target. 72%. Ah, there you go. Kaslik. Wow. Right, the key thing here. Mateusz Malek and Jan Peltz into the 60s, mid-60s for shots on target percentage. That, to me, is why they've contributed way more goals this season. It really has been a step up. That's a huge step up. Conversion rate. Anyone on there at all? Pichara, 22% and Malek at 18. That ain't bad, really, is it? That ain't bad. Zavchukov has been on the pitch for 65 of our 68 goals. That is really quite some contribution from him, bless him. Penalties, of course, Pichara up there with 5 scored out of 6. Not too bad. Assists, Malek and Peltz got 11 assists each. That is pretty damn impressive. Key passes, no surprise that Zavchukov wins that by miles, but Bartosz Wisniewski with 45 ain't bad. Peltz, Pichara and Malek also contributing a huge number of them. Not a huge surprise there either. Chances created, though. Malek's created 11 and Peltz 8. So Zavchukov creates a lot of key passes, but doesn't always create the chances. Pass completion, there we go, 90% pass completion for him. Kolbon at 89, and Tobias, of course, our goalkeeper, at 89 as well. So our 2 midfielders really are linking the play up very, very nicely indeed. But I still feel like there's a way we can maybe bring our midfielder into the our defensive mid into the game a little bit more. Zeborowski has 35% cross completion, but that could probably be of not that many crosses. Dribbles per game, Mateusz Malek 2.14. The guy can run. That's fair to say. And Peltz up there too at 0.9. And Kelechu Ebenezer. Well, we see what he did against us in that game when they went down to 10 men, and he just kept. No, it was us up and down to 10 men, and they just kept getting through. Team conceded. Barbas has been on the pitch for 13 goals, which actually is kind of a lot if you think about it, because he didn't play that many games, to be honest. Tackles per game, no one on there at all. Okay. Mistakes leading to goals. Maslanka did make 1, so maybe Kushinevsky didn't make any mistakes overall. Maslanka 52 and Yak. Yeah, our fullbacks always make lots of mistakes. We have to accept that. Most of these players are probably fullbacks. Key tackles. Kaslik made 6 key tackles this season. That is really, really nice. Key headers. I assume he's probably on there too. Yes, he is. He's made 50 key headers. What a lad. Interceptions. Kaslik again at 100. What an amazing player. Headers 1 ratio, though. Interesting. I would have thought you'd done more than that. Shots blocked. Kasper Stakowski. That's the guy that got injured and substituted for Photohygienia in that game against us. And he's not even that bad. I've got my scout on him at the moment, I think. Look at this. He's not a bad player, to be honest. As a defensive midfielder, 6 foot tall, decent marking, good, decent tackling. I'm looking into this guy because they're getting relegated and he might want to move. So there's an option there for us potentially. Goalkeeping, of course, yeah. Tobias only conceded 19 goals, but unfortunately, he fell short on the clean sheet one because of Emil Anišević did in fact get in front of him, and of course, Photohygiene's goalkeeper is going to be dominating this one. Right, now on to what really matters, the actual player comparison stats, the bit I'm always the most interested in. So let's get into that now. Let me sort out the bits. It seems to be counting his games playing for the B team a lot, and to be fair, he's been pretty solid for them as well. I don't know why his rating's so high though. That is very, very high. So we'll take this with a pinch of salt, really. I don't know how much we can really interpret from this, because it's taken into account his games playing for the B team as well, which is a bit of a problem. So we might have to just move on and assume that Tobias has done all right, and we might still look for another goalkeeper in the summer, though, because, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Right, let's move on to centre-backs. I'm very interested in this bit. Okay, so here are all the centre-backs that have played minutes for us. It's nice to see that we've got a fair number of young players in this one. Obviously, couple of older heads in there too. What it does disappoint me a little bit is we've got no one that's sort of sitting on that 5-star potential at the moment. They're all kind of seeing that cap, but they've all kind of hit that point, although apart from Zubek. So this will be interesting to see. The things I'm looking out for centre-backs is the obvious stuff, but I also want them to be good passers of the football. I think that's really important for a centre-back in this team to be able to pass that ball around really efficiently. So appearances, obviously we know the best of that. So best pass completion, Zubek, the youngster, 21 years old, 82%. That's not too bad. Tied at the top with Kosciuszewski, but the thing is, Kaslik and Zeborowski are right there as well, so all across a reasonable amount. Now, Luchkiewicz, he hasn't played that many minutes, but is still definitely a lot lower, and I do wonder, though, if over a longer period of time he could have brought that up a little bit. But what is his passing and vision? Let's just have a look. 7 passing and 8 vision. He's not bad, but I do wonder if that's contributing to it a little bit. But I can sort of give him the benefit of the doubt a tiny bit there. It's fair to say. So passes completed per 90 minutes as well. You can see that the other one's massively higher than him. He's just not really completing many passes either. Kastelik a little bit lower on that one, whereas Kosciuszko and Zubek really love passing the football. Team goals scored per 90 minutes. Luchkovic, interestingly, right up towards the top. We don't score that many goals with Zubek in the team. Like, it's a noticeable drop-off, in fairness. Key passes per 90 minutes. Kastelik, again, really up there, as is Zubek. So those two really are excelling at the moment. It's fair to say. Kastelik is pretty much dominating every single one of these, or certainly being up there, which makes sense because he is clearly the best player of the bunch by miles. But he's doing it. But the fact that Zubek is putting in up some really decent numbers is filling me with confidence for next year. Right. Team conceded per 90 minutes. The best overall of that one is, of course, Konrad Kastelik with 0.62. Zubek just in behind with 0.64. Zebrowski just slightly off the pace with 6.7. And then, of course, Kosciuszko with 6.9. But they're all across a relatively small margin. Then you've got Luchkovic with 1.15. So clearly, we're not quite up the races when he's in the team, interestingly. But again, Kastelik dominating, Zubek doing a really good job in there as well. Tackles 1 ratio. Now, I don't feel like we've got enough data for that, but again, Kastelik, 97% tackles 1 ratio over 2,500 minutes is unbelievable. He's standing out so much as an absolute titan at the back, whereas the others still solid. Zebrowski 89, Zubek 88, and Kosciuszko 88 as well. So Zubek's keeping up with the guys who are much, much older than him, which is definitely a good sign. But Kastelik, we need to get him on a new contract. He is an absolute god at the back. At 6'4" and only 22 years old, he's still got a long way to... Like, he could get better than he is. Like, they're still saying he's got more room to grow, and fair enough, I can see why he's attracting bids from top flight clubs at the moment. If we can hang on to him for next season, I will be very, very pleased with that. I'll try to get him on a new deal because his contract does expire next summer. So that's important. Interceptions, Kosciuszko, interesting, at 3.64, and Kastelik again, 3.45. He's an interception machine, just doing his job brilliantly. Zubek a lot lower, but Zebrowski even lower than him, and again, Luchkovic a lot lower than that still. Headers won, Kastelik again, 77% of those have been won. Zubek right down at 54, though, which is very interesting, considering they are both the same height. Zubek, I don't know, does he lack strength? Is that what it's sort of causing the problem? I don't know. That's interesting, really. Kastelik, again, dominating in the air, whereas Zubek really is seemingly struggling with aerial duels. That does kind of concern me a little bit. But in terms of average rating, you can see that, you know, Kosciuszko hasn't played that well. Zubek's done all right. Zebrowski. I kind of feel like I'm still on the lookout for a central defensive partner to Konrad Kastelik. I feel like he is an absolute god when he starts for us, but we need someone of his level to play next to him at the back. And if we had those two, I feel like we'd barely concede any goals, because if we had two of him, we would be like watertight, quite frankly. He has been superb this year. I really cannot stress how good he's been. Decent determination as well, which will really help him in the long run. Zebrowski also has good determination too, but he is also 28. I need another Konrad Kastelik, really, and I think I'm going to be on the lookout and maybe spend some money in the summer to try and bring in another centre-back that can start for us and have some real sell-on potential. Just an idea, but I feel like that's an area I definitely want to go down. But I'm super happy with Kastelik. That's really nice to see. We do have some youngsters coming through as well, of course, but yeah, not seen anything great just yet. Let's move on to fullbacks. So, fullbacks. Now, again, got a lot of good young fullbacks, apart from Maslanka, who's 29. I'm still interested to see who does the best in this. Now, of course, the likes of Zmuda and Yaziak haven't played that many minutes, but I still just want to see how they compare. Zmuda's really isn't a lot of minutes. Yaziak a few more, so we can sort of take more into his stats. So that's kind of interesting. It's mainly been Yaksic and Maslanka, but obviously Kokoschka's made some appearances too. And I do want to see how he stacks up to the other defenders, because he's played enough minutes for me to have a look at those numbers now and just kind of give us an idea of whether he might be the man for the job going forward. We'll just have a little look. So, assists per 90 minutes. Kokoschka, well, I mean, he's dominated that one because he's got 1 assist so far. Yaksic's not doing too badly either, but you can see the difference between Kokoschka and Maslanka. It was Kokoschka's ball to the back post for Zebrowski that got that assist for him. So maybe not enough to read into that there, but he has still provided an assist in the 5 games that he started for us. So there is that to note. More importantly, in fact, is the fact that his pass completion is, again, 4% better than Piotr Maslanka. So he's already beating a guy 11 years his senior in both assists in terms of per 90 minutes and his pass completion ratio, which is very, very nice to see. And to me, is suggesting that he has a very bright future and can keep improving if he's given the game time. And I really do want to give him that game time because I feel like he deserves it. On the right-hand side, however, Yaksic and Yaziak kind of, you know, throw a blanket over them, Jaksic is a tiny little bit better, and he has provided some assists this season, so there is that. But I guess the right-hand side don't complete as many passes. It does seem fairly obvious that that's the case. You can also see the number of passes is the same, much, much lower. And again, Kokoschka, nearly 48 passes completed per 90 minutes. Again, he's outdoing Maslanka a little tiny bit on that one too. Key passes per 90 minutes, though, you can see on the right-hand side, it is very much a case of Jaksic is the man for the key passes. He's creating nearly 1 key pass a game, which is very, very good. And in terms of the left-hand side, Maslanka is outdoing Kokoschka on that one by quite some amount. So, yeah, it's fair to say he's definitely dominating that one. Zmuda's not really had much of an opportunity to do much with that. Dribbles per game. Zmuda's done well, but I'm not sure if you can read too much into it. Jaksic, again, doing much, much better than Jaziak, and as far as I can tell, Kokoschka hasn't actually completed a dribble yet, so that might be an issue for him. What's his dribbling like? It's only 6, so that might be an issue for him in terms of actually getting into good positions. Maslanka does seem to be a bit more dominant in those positions. He's got 9 dribbling, which is, that's 50% more dribbling ability, so it's certainly worth taking into it. Shots is pretty irrelevant. Cross completion, interesting one. Here we go. Let's have a little look at this one. So Maslanka at 14, Kokoschka at 13. It's pretty solid. Jaziak actually is better than Jaksic on the crosses completed, so that is definitely worth talking about. What are we talking about here? So Jaziak's crossing is only 6, whereas Jaksic's is 8, so you'd feel like he should be doing better, really. But frankly, neither of them are all that special. How about Maslanka and Kokoschka? What are their crossing abilities? So 10 crossing for Maslanka and 9 crossing for Kokoschka. So that kind of does bear out quite nicely that he would be slightly better than him. Team conceded, right, we don't concede many goals with Jaksic and Maslanka in the team. It's fair to say that we look worse defensively with Kokoschka, Jaziak and Zmuda in the team. Like, we just concede more goals overall. So maybe his defensive ability isn't quite there yet. Maslanka really is a rock of a player there. Tackles 1 ratio. Jaksic again, 96% 1, and Maslanka at 91. That's very, very high. Kokoschka and Jaziak again, just slightly off the pace on 88%. Still pretty good, but it's not quite those sort of numbers. Like, Jaksic is putting up like Kasalik type of numbers. 96% is outrageous for a player that's played the same number of minutes as Kasalik has at nearly 2,500 minutes. He is an absolute godly player at the moment. Jaksic has really had a very, very good season. I've been incredibly impressed with him, and it seems to be, I'm impressed even more here. Frankly, we're looking at this stuff. Interceptions. How are we doing here? And again, Jaksic at 2.36 is vastly better than Jaziak. That's more than double. And Kokoschka is better than Maslanka, so maybe he's not making as many tackles and stuff like that, but he is maybe cutting the balls out before they have to become tackles. What's his anticipation like? 10 compared to Maslanka's 11. So that's an interesting one, actually. One area where I think he is going to struggle, though, is in the air. And again, Jaksic at 71%, outdoing his compatriot. Kokoschka, no, he's actually outdoing Maslanka in the air as well by quite some amount. That's 14%. Maslanka is 5'8", whereas Kokoschka is 5'11", so he's got more of an aerial presence too. So he's cutting the ball out more, winning more stuff in the air. He's just not quite as good when the ball is on the floor defensively just yet. That seems to be the opinion I'm getting off of him. He also runs a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but enough more to be noticeable, it's fair to say. So, I mean, the thing I'm looking at here is I think that Kokoschka should be our starting left-back next season. I think he's got the ability. The potential's right there. He's still only 18, and I feel like he could do a job for us next season. I'll keep Maslanka around as a backup. We've also got Zmuda. I might look at another option, I'm not sure, but I'm more interested in looking at options on that right-hand side to see if we can maybe bring someone in who's really, really good, or just some more options, but I really do think that Kokoschka has a bright future, and he could be one of the heroes of this save going forward, because I really, really like the numbers he's putting up so far. Now, again, after we've only got 5 games to judge that on, and I think we'd already been promoted and won the title in that period, so read into that what you will, is all I'm saying. Maybe he isn't quite as good as we think he is, but the point is, in terms of average ability, he's already matching a guy 11 years his senior, so to me that suggests he's got a really, really bright future, and could definitely be a top division player one day, according to my scouts anyway. So let's move on to DMs. Okay, so it's kind of a battle of a guy who's played almost all the minutes and a guy who's played very few minutes. Fair enough. And also a guy who's older than the other one has better potential. So maybe we made the wrong choice. I don't know. We'll see as we go through this. So in terms of passing, Colbon is doing a better job, but not by much. It's only 2%, and they're both relatively high. 88% and 90% are both excellent. I still feel like this role can be improved, though. When you look at their average ratings, they're dead even. But I feel like it's the only area of the squad where the players aren't achieving averages of 7s or more. And I feel like we've got to be able to do something more about that. And I do wonder if changing the role of the DM could help with that. So if you've got any ideas how we can get the DMs involved in the play a little bit more and improve their performances, then do let me know. Just in terms of changing the role, because I'm just not sure if just a straight up defensive midfielder is going to work. That's just my theory on it anyway. So passes completed per 90 minutes though. Cabrera definitely does complete more passes. Look at that, nearly 51 passes completed per 90 minutes. That's probably the most of anyone in the team, in all honesty. Oh, sorry if there's any background noise. A neighbour has decided now is the perfect time to start cutting their lawn. So apologies. Even if I shut the window, you'd still hear it. So just pretend it's ambiance in the background. The clubhouse, they're just trimming the lawns. You know how it be. So key passes per 90 minutes. It would appear as though Colbon is definitely the better player on that side of things. It's not by much, but it is definitely a gap, you know. Tackle, ooh, hello. This is the thing though. Cabrera, 95%. Those are some big boy numbers compared to, like, those are sort of Yaksik and Kasalik type of numbers to be putting up. Those mid-90 numbers. Those are huge numbers. Colbon's not bad, though, at 89. That's still very, very good, but he's definitely losing out on one side of things here, so that's interesting. Interceptions, though, he is winning that one. By a reasonable margin as well. So he's cutting some stuff out. Headers won, they are locked in at head-to-head at 72%. Aerial challenges, he's slightly worse than the air, but again, they're still... oh, well, that's attempted per 90 minutes. That's not really that important, really. It just shows you how many headers they're going for. I'd rather have how many headers they've won, but we've kind of already got that. But we do concede less goals with Cabrera in the team. Like, that is a noticeable drop-off. But again, I don't know how much we can read into that. It's a weird one. I still feel like maybe this role could be improved with the right player and the right signing to really take it to the next level. So the right player and the right role. I feel like I'm still on the lookout for another DM in the summer. Someone that could really play a role that I want to change it to. Figure out in pre-season, maybe watch some of the friendlies again and just sort of see what we want to do. Bring in someone new. Maybe that guy from Photo Hygienia could be an option. Stashkowski, the guy that got injured against us earlier in the season. He might be an option. It might be available pretty cheap as well because, of course, they're getting relegated. So... you know, instead of playing in the 4th tier, he could come play in the 2nd tier with us, and he's still nice and young, which sort of fits all the criteria of the players I want. Okay, let's go look at the DMs. The CMs. This one should be a fairly simple story, really, because Zavchikar is really the only player that's actually played in this role. Barbas, I'm not sure how often he played here. Mateus Santos played here a few times, but unfortunately we can't look at his stats because he's gone back to his parent club. Hebda definitely played there 6 times off the bench, and Priborovsky made 2 substitute appearances. I think that was quite early in the season. So there's not too much to read into this. Most of the time I brought him on as an attacking midfielder, so there is that as an option. Most of his substitute appearances probably would have been in those positions. That being said, he does still have a better goals per game ratio than Zavchikar. Only just, but it's still there. And the same with his assists too, in the fact that he has 1. Zavchikar still has dominated though. Look at the pass completion, 90% for him. Hebda actually did complete 90% of his passes when he was on the team. Zavchikar was quite a lot lower, in fairness to him. Chances created, of course, Barbas and Zavchikar, again, not too bad there. Crosses completed, irrelevant for these guys. Look at passes completed per night. 82 passes on average per game. That is ridiculous. He nearly completes a pass every minute that he plays. That's mental. He's probably accounted for about 2,200 passes of this team's output this season. Like, that is ridiculous. Zavchikar is just an absolute fulcrum in this team. 82 passes is mental. And his key passes per game, he makes nearly 2 per game. Barbas actually has created more, and he's played enough minutes for me to be like, that's actually a really solid record for him, pushing on forward. I'm pretty pleased with that. I'll include Barbas in the attacking midfield ones too, so we can just sort of have a gander at that as well, just to see how things are going on that side of things. But that is very interesting. Key tackles as well. Zavchikar made a few of those too, so that's interesting. Tackles 1 ratio, 92 isn't bad. Barbas at 100 and Hebda at 100 as well. Zavchikar is still not bad though. 92% tackles 1 as well for a midfielder in that role. I'm pretty pleased with that. Interceptions as well. Look at that. Nearly 2 a game. The guy's just getting himself about. He's doing everything in the midfield for us. He is astonishingly good. Look at this. Headers 1. He's winning stuff in the air as well. How tall is Zavchikar? I don't think he was that tall. 5'11". He's winning everything in the air for us too, compared to the other players in the team, it would seem. 55% headers 1 compared to 40 and 25. Like, it's not great, but it's still a lot better than the other players in this team. And we look pretty solid as well. Better defensively with him in the team too. 6 man of the match awards. He's got great determination too. A 7.27 when playing this season. Like, I know he's pretty much made this role his own and he's not had much competition, but like, I'm certainly not going to bring anyone to replace him, but I do want a more capable backup to him in case he gets injured next season. But like, he's definitely good enough to start in the second tier next year, and he's still only 21 years old. I hope we can hang on to old Zav, because he has been an absolute goddamn revelation in this team over the seasons. 62 appearances for us now over the last 2 years. I've been stupidly impressed with his output, and it only looks like he's going to keep getting better for me, and that really does please me quite considerably. I think he's got top flight player potential. I know they haven't said that here, or have they? Currently operating, he's already operating at a second tier level, and he is a potential top flight player. I love this guy so much, and the fact that he's up to his goal output too is really nice. Right, we'll move on. I want to sign a backup potentially for this role though. That's something I definitely will point out to myself now. Attacking midfielders, we're nearly there, lads. Don't worry. Right then, attacking mids. Now this is an interesting one. I'm still going to include Barbas in here because I believe he's played here enough, mostly off the bench, to take this into account, but the other three have always played in these positions. I think occasionally Gora might have been farmed out to the wing, but very rarely. So this is definitely a lot we can read into this. Goals per 90 minutes. I mean, look at this. Pichara, 0.67. I know there's a lot of penalties in there, but that's still bloody excellent. Wisniewski, not bad either. Gora's stats aren't awful, but you can see that they are definitely a massive drop-off compared to Wisniewski and Pichara, even though he's got a better current ability than both of them. Now, maybe if he's given consistent game time playing in the role more often, you know, he did do a solid job towards the end of the year, getting sort of, I think he got 4 in 3 at one point. All of those goals kind of came in a bundle, so maybe he does have that potential if he's given the game time for us, it's fair to say. But you can see the impact Pichara has with 14 goals in 24 games. I feel like he definitely could have smashed the 20 mark if he'd been able to play for the full season. He's missed 10 games. Like, God knows, we could have got 10 penalties in that time for all we know. Assists-wise, Barbas, not too bad there. Wisniewski, not too bad either. Pichara doing an okay job in there, and Gora didn't provide any assists, so he is definitely more of just a pure goal scorer for that role, but he's not done that well in goal scoring either. Chances created, again, it's a very similar story. The scorer did create a chance, probably just the one I would have guessed, but still, he's falling short of all of the others. Yeah, just the one chance created. Cross completion, it's certainly noteworthy, the fact that both Barbas and Gora have better cross completion, but I think Barbas takes corners, and that might count as a cross. I don't know. Pass completion, interesting. Oh, look at this. Wisniewski, 86% pass completion. That is really good. For a 34-year-old, he really is just using his experience to allow him to create passing opportunities, to just spread that ball around. Barbas at 83, but I guess that could have been boosted a little bit by him playing a bit deeper. But Pichara and Gora both at 81 is still not too bad. And considering they were both played more in the striker, or the lack of striker role, the sort of false nine type of role, the shadow striker, so to speak, they would have relied on that passing a little bit less, whereas Wisniewski and Barbas would have played on the other side. So Wisniewski's still putting up some big boy numbers, and I'm really pleased for him on that one. And you can see that kind of pans out by the number of passes completed. So these two are both closer to 40, and these two are both closer to 30. But Gora does still do a little bit more than that, than Pichara does, so that's definitely worth knowing. Key passes per 90. Look at this. Barbas at 2.65 is actually very high. Wisniewski at 1.84 ain't too bad, and the other two are much of a muchness, so you can separate them. Basically, you can't separate them. Headers 1, Pichara obviously does his job there because he is, I think he's just taller than Gora. He's 5'11", whereas Mateus Gora, I think he's 6 foot tall. So you'd actually expect him to do better than that, really. But Pichara certainly does throw his weight around quite a lot, and maybe that helps. Maybe a bit of strength in the air. What's his strength like? Is it better? 11 strength compared to Mateus Gora's 9 strength. So maybe he's just out-muscling his opponents a little bit more in order to win those headers a bit more. Shots on target, again, Pichara hitting the target more with 53%. Gora at 45 isn't awful, but it could be better. Barbas very low, and Wisniewski not too bad either, but Pichara is over 50%, and that's the main thing. I like our striker-ish player to definitely be hitting sort of 55, 56 would be nice, but we'll see. Shots on target per 90 minutes is the same as Gora, though, so he is hitting the target the same number of times. And this is an interesting one for me. Gora is picking up that ball and he is running with it way more than Christian Pichara. And is this because he's just got much better dribbling? He's got 9 dribbling, whereas Gora has 10 dribbling. So you'd feel like that's not that much of a difference, but yet Gora's just really running with that ball. And I think that's actually doing us a nice job because it's dragging opponents out to try and close him down. That's interesting. Did not expect that. He's also covering more ground than Pichara. But, I mean, you can see the fact that Wisniewski's actually got 3 Player of the Match awards this year, and Pichara only has 2. It's certainly noteworthy, but you've got to say that Pichara and Wisniewski are both excellent players, but they are really starting to get, like Wisniewski, the end of next season, he's going to be 35 years old. And I wouldn't be surprised if he announces his retirement at the end of the season. Now, I don't know how long he's played for us, but I don't think there's any chance of a testimonial for old Bartosz here. Oh, there's a doggo howling in the background there. No, he's not going to be getting a testimonial anytime soon, which is a shame. But Pachara at the end of next season, he's going to be 32. And also with that Achilles injury, I feel like that's really, really going to harm him in the long run. So I really do think we need to look for attacking midfielders in the summer. I think Gora could still do a job for us, but I do think we need to strengthen in those areas and try and find some real quality there, because that's a really key part of this team. When you look at the fact that they both got into double figures last season, and this year, Pachara, obviously the injury, but that's only 14 goals, and Wisniewski's goal scoring has also dropped off this season too. I want to have players that can both be capable of double figures next season and not have to rely quite so much on our wide players, who are the final key in this puzzle, which isn't even a correct metaphor. I'm mixing them for days. Let's have a look at the wide players. Now, it would be totally fair to say that we've actually featured quite a lot of them this year and have quite a lot of stats to compare on, and I'm actually looking forward to having a little crack at this. So we actually had 7 different players playing those attacking midfield slots, and this is even not counting the fact that I played Gora there a couple of times. So there's on the right, we've had Malek, we've had Zaborowski, we've had Kvanteliani, and we've had Regian and Swamka. And Regian's actually played on the left-hand side a couple of times as well. And on the left, it's mostly been Peltz and Klushka that have played there, but again, Regian's backed up there too. Thank God for Peltz, basically. Thank God he didn't get any injuries, because we would have really been in trouble. I feel like he's going to come out on top here, but I'm very interested in that. Zaborowski still played 358 minutes, so I feel like we can still have a look at those stats based around it. So, goals per 90 minutes. Zaborowski, he has got a goal every other game in terms of that, which is up there with Marcin Klushka, which isn't too bad. I don't know how much you can read into that, but the fact that Klushka also got 3 goals in only 4 starts. Peltz isn't too bad either. Malek and then Kvanteliani is bottom of the pack along with Swamka and Regian, but they played less minutes. What I would say, though, is that Swamka played 356 minutes and got no goals, whereas Zaborowski played 2 minutes more and got 2 goals in the league. So he definitely has a bit more goal scoring pedigree, it would seem. Maybe it's just luck, I don't know. But it's definitely worth knowing. Assists per 90 minutes. Malek, 6-4, and Kvanteliani as well at 5-4. Swamka at 5-1, then it's Peltz. So the right-hand side definitely seems to be more of an assisty-based economy, it's fair to say, because if you actually look at it, the right-hand side has contributed, 17 assists to the team so far this season, whereas the left-hand side have only contributed 12 assists from the minutes played. Now, obviously, and those minutes will probably add up to a relatively similar number. So the right-hand side definitely does seem more fruitful. It's just that Jan Peltz has kind of he's played more minutes and has had to do it on his own. I feel like if Malek had played the same number of minutes as Peltz, he'd probably be on more like 14 or 15 assists potentially, or maybe 13. I think he would probably outdo him a little bit still. Kvanteliani's not far off on that one too, and Swamka's actually provided a couple. I think they were both in the same game as it goes. But again, Zaborowski hasn't provided any assists though, so that's a key note considering he's playing in that role. He also has made a substitute appearance or two as he played in the shadow striker role, so we've got to bear that in mind as well. Chances created per 90 minutes. Okay. Klushka, again, dominant. Like, there's a reason why I loved this guy so much, and he does still put up big numbers. You can't deny it, but I just think that by the time he comes back, he's not going to be able to put up those numbers anymore, but he is consistently doing better. Wojciech Swamka, not too bad at 7-6. Kvanteliani, just slightly outdoing Malek. He's creating some chances, slightly more, but the team just isn't putting them in the back of the net as much. Peltz, again, not creating as many chances, but he is still creating goals. Zaborowski, again, a bit lower than that as well on the right-hand side. So he's not been great in terms of creativity so far. Definitely fair to say. This is all to do with crosses, so let's have a look at the cross completion. Kvanteliani at 26%. That is outstanding. What's his crossing again? Has he got really good crossing? It's 12. When you look at someone like Malek, what's Malek's crossing? 8. So that would explain why Kvanteliani really does know how to deliver a ball. And with 4 assists, to be fair, in 7 starts, that is really not that bad. I think it's just because Kvanteliani picked up some niggly injuries that really did cost him at times. But you can see that his average rating of 7.2 is very, very high. So I think we're actually pretty stacked on that right-hand side at the moment, and that pleases me. Klushka, again, 22%. The guy is just a really, really good player when he's given the opportunity, but that horrible injury, I feel like that's probably ended his career with us, which sucks. Peltz, though, 16% isn't bad. It's the same with Malek. That's fine. Swamka at 12. Zaborowski at only 3%, though. That is very, very, very poor. That's 7 crossing. I feel like it should be higher than that. That's really, really bad. Look at the passing build-up, though. Swamka, 84. Zaborowski, 81. That's nice. He's keeping the ball, passing it around nicely. Outdoing Malek as well. Kvanteliani, not so good on the passing. Peltz, outdoing Klushka slightly, but Klushka's still right in there. Everybody's fairly close, apart from Swamka, who is out in front a little bit more. Passes completed per 90 minutes. everybody except Kvantiliani again. He doesn't... I think it's because he prefers to dribble. I don't know, but it feels like he prefers to dribble. But then again, his dribbles don't look that high either. I don't know. Let's have a look at key passes. Maybe a more accurate number. Malik at 1.85. The guy can play a key pass. Swamka on the right there doing it too. Kvantiliani at 1.62. But again, Zaborowski massively off the pace on key passes and crossing. Zaborowski, to me, feels like a player that could play there and get some goals for us at the moment, but I don't think he's quite got the creative chops to be able to create goals for other people just yet. It seems like his ability to create passes, crosses, key opportunities just isn't quite there yet for him, and maybe we'd struggle. Like, I don't think he'd be able to create stuff for Jan Peltz in the same way that Jan Peltz could create stuff for him, and that is a bit of a concern. Everyone else is relatively up there, like Kushka again outdoing Jan Peltz, but only slightly. But Malik really... Swamka's had a better season than I've given him credit for. That's what I will say. Shots on target percentage. Okay, here's more like it. Malik 67 and Peltz at 65, but again, Zaborowski 57. He's putting up respectable numbers of shots on target too, which I guess comes back to the point I'm making about how he's more of a goal-scoring player in that role than he is a creative one. And that kind of bears out from that as well. Shots on target per 90 minutes. Look at this. Klushka, nearly 3 shots on target per 90 minutes. He gets into good positions as well. Peltz just in behind him there as well. Kvantiliani, Malik, Zaborowski, not too bad either. Swamka and Regian. And Regian's not had a single shot on target, it would seem. Dribbles per game. Malik again, not too bad. Zaborowski, not too bad either. Putting up decent numbers. Peltz doing much, much better. They're not much better than Klushka, but better enough, shall we say. And weirdly, Kvantiliani falling off the pace on that one too, which is kind of weird. Looking at average rating as well, you can see that Malik and Peltz have been good, but Kvantiliani and Klushka have done okay as well. Zaborowski's rating's been quite poor, but unfortunately, when you've made 11 substitute appearances, it just ruins the rating. So, thoughts for what we've got so far. I'm pleased with what Mateusz Malik's doing. I think he's doing a good job. And I'm pretty happy with that. We've got Kvantiliani in that role as well, and we've got Zaborowski as a backup. I feel like we're stacked on that right-hand side with 3 good players. One that's really good now, one that's a solid option as well, and one that's a great player, hopefully, for the future in that role. It's the left-hand side where I'm really concerned. Peltzy is phenomenal. If we hold on to him and Kastelik, I'll be very, very pleased. Him, Kastelik, and Zavshikrai, those are my must-hang-on-to players for the summer. And obviously Kokoschka and the youngsters too. But I think we absolutely need to sign another left-sided midfielder. Someone that can run that line with Jan Peltz and doesn't mind not playing all the time. We need another player that can really step in there and put up some big numbers, like a Marcin Klushka type of player, basically. Someone that can really give Jan Peltz a run for his money. And hopefully, by doing that, they can improve him as a player. That's my hope behind it anyway. Right then, oh bloody hell. So, let's think about this. It's time for, what was it? The word of the day. So, Em she keeps handing me leaflets. She picked this up when she was down getting a coffee earlier this morning. It's a run fest for a 10k run, which we're signing up for in June, I believe. She's weird that she's actually found this. So, the word of the day is going to be 10k run. That's going to be, so if you got this far into the video, write 10k run in the comments so I know that you got this far. I know some people probably cheat and just jump to the end of the video, but you still have to find it because I don't always put it right at the very end. So, put that in the comments, and obviously let me know your thoughts on all sorts of stuff, particularly the defensive midfield role. I'm interested in that. Maybe we should keep it the same. If you don't think I should change it, let me know that as well. It's always very important, because I think sometimes change can be promoted over staying the same, and I think that's important too. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I learnt my lesson last year with that. So, things for the summer. I do want to have a look at another goalkeeper potentially, just because I want to see if we can strengthen there. We don't want to be too loyal if we don't need to be. At the back, I do want to sign another centre-back if we can do, because I feel like Kastelik needs some defensive partnership. I think a defensive midfielder would be nice as well, and particularly attacking midfielders and that left-hand side as well. We've got decent money though. We've got 100 grand in transfer funds and 5 grand in wage budget. Like, the sort of money I've been spending on players in terms of their wages. Now, obviously it'll be higher because it's the second tier, but even if I was signing them on £300 or £400 a week contracts, that's still like 10 players we could potentially bring in. And if I do have to dump, like, say £800 a week on one player, if that player's an absolute star, we'll have the funds available to be able to bring them in. And, I feel like that's a good position to be in. We're in a very good position financially, even though we're losing money, but we're not losing anywhere near as much money as we could be if we were spending all of that wage budget. I just want to make sure we can get to the point where we're earning more money before we start trying to exploit that part of the game by just spending loads of money. Right now, I'm just trying to make sure the club stays as financially viable as possible, so the board will let me have a few more bits and bobs. Hopefully they'll maybe have a scout. I don't know. Maybe they'll increase the scouting range and let us scout some nearby countries so I can expand my youth intake scouting. And also, to people who keep saying, please scout this club in Poland, I'm scouting all of them. The youth intakes of every single club have been scouted. So don't worry, I'm not missing out on certain clubs for some reason. I'm just going after every single one. If they don't turn up any players, they don't turn up any players. Anyway, If you've enjoyed this video and you want to see me keep making more of these, drop a like on the video, that would be spectacular. And if you're new to the channel and this is the first video of mine that you have seen, then subscribe for more videos like this in your inbox every single day at 6, and these ones obviously come through at 9 o'clock, but you know what I mean. And I'll see you guys in the next episode tomorrow for transfer goodies. I'll be pimping it up since I still don't have enough stuff for the costume I want to do. Maybe I'll do that for when we get to the top flight. That'll be like the prize at the end of the tunnel, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.